All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're looking at a pretty stark warning coming from the scientific community. It's all about this cocktail of chemicals we've pumped into our environment, a threat that's become so massive, it might actually be jeopardizing the stability of the entire planet.
Just take a second and let that sink in. Think about every whale, every elephant, every person on this planet. Our combined weight is now less than the weight of all the plastic we have created. This quote from one of the scientists behind the study we're covering just perfectly nails the unbelievable scale of this problem. It's a huge red flag that something is way, way out of balance.
So, when you hear scientists say a line has been crossed, what do they really mean by that? This isn't just about pollution in a general sense. It's about a very specific and very important concept: the idea of a planetary boundary. Okay, think of it like this. For the last 10,000 years, basically since the end of the last ice age, the Earth has been in this unusually stable, friendly state, a real sweet spot. And that stability is the only reason human civilization could even develop and thrive in the first place. These planetary boundaries, then, are like the essential guardrails that keep us within that safe zone. And this is the absolute crux of it. According to the research, we've now blown right past the guardrail for chemical pollution. This is actually the fifth of 9 of these major planetary boundaries to be crossed. It joins others like climate change and the loss of biodiversity. We are, officially, operating outside the safe zone. So how on earth did we get here? Well, when you look at the speed and the sheer scale of our chemical production, the numbers are, and I'm not exaggerating, absolutely mind-blowing. Get this, since just 1950, the amount of chemicals we produce has exploded 50 times over, a 50-fold increase. And we're not slowing down. The current projection is that production is going to triple again from where we are now by the year 2050. The rate of increase is just completely outpacing our ability to manage any of the consequences. So what is all this stuff we're making? We're talking about a vast menu of synthetic chemicals. About 350,000 different types are currently registered for use. You find them in our pesticides, our industrial processes, our medicines, and of course, our plastics. They're everywhere. And here's the real kicker. While we've created this enormous library of chemicals, we've only ever bothered to rigorously test a tiny, tiny fraction of them for their impact on our health and the environment. We are, for all intents and purposes, flying blind. This quote from researcher Patricia Villarrubia Gomez really just sums it all up. Our speed of invention and production has just left our ability to ensure safety in the dust. We're releasing these chemicals into the world way faster than our authorities can even track them, let alone figure out what they do in the long run. Look, this massive chemical dump isn't just some abstract problem you see on a chart. It has very, very real consequences for the fundamental systems that support all life on this planet. The threat here is so much bigger than just a single toxic spill or one pollutant. We're talking about disrupting the planet's core operating system, those incredibly complex biological and physical processes that regulate everything, from the air we breathe to the water we drink. Here is a perfect example of how this all connects. A farmer uses pesticides. Okay, but those chemicals don't just kill the one pest they're aiming for. They often wipe out countless other insects that weren't the target, like bees and other pollinators. This, in turn, damages the whole ecosystem that relied on those insects, and that ultimately threatens the very systems that allow us to grow food. It's a really dangerous chain reaction, and the problem is coming from all over. The study points to a few major culprits. Of course, there are the plastics we already talked about and the pesticides we just saw, but there's also a whole bunch of industrial compounds and even antibiotics that escape out into our environment. And there's really no escaping it. This chemical footprint is now truly global. I mean, scientists have found plastic pollution and other persistent toxic chemicals literally everywhere, from the top of Mount Everest to the very bottom of the deepest ocean trenches. It has reached every corner of the planet. Now, after hearing all that, it would be really easy to just feel defeated. But the scientists behind this work are adamant that there is a path forward. So let's talk about what we can actually do to start reversing some of this damage. Professor Almroth's message is so important here. Yes, the situation is dire. She's saying, we're in trouble, but it's not hopeless. We have choices, and there are concrete steps we can actually take. One of the most fundamental shifts has to happen in how we think about our economy. Right now, we operate on this linear model. It's basically take resources from the earth, make something, and then throw it away. Take, make, waste. The proposed solution is to move to a circular economy. That's where you design materials and products from the very beginning to be reused and repurposed, not just tossed out as garbage. So the study lays out a pretty clear roadmap. It includes things like much stronger regulations. And this is a big one, setting a fixed global cap on chemical production, kind of like the targets we have for carbon emissions. There are also calls to create a global scientific body, sort of like the IPCC for climate change, to guide policy on chemicals. And finally, and this is key, adopting what's called a precautionary approach. So what does that even mean? Well, this question gets right to the heart of it. The precautionary approach was all about flipping our current thinking on its head. It basically argues that if an action, like releasing a new chemical, carries a suspected risk of causing great harm, the burden of proof shouldn't be on society to prove it's dangerous. The burden of proof should be on the creator to show that it's safe. It's a fundamental shift from just reacting to damage after it's done to proactively preventing it from ever happening in the first place. And that's the big question we're now faced with.